Hello and welcome to Theory of Mind podcast. This is Carl Carson, your friendly Viking in Newfoundland. Now I am trying to catch up a little bit. We have had a massive snowstorm here in Newfoundland. But the topic of the day that I'm trying to talk about as we watch this beautiful compilation video of my family going to the store is fitness and family. Well, how do we juggle it? That's the question. It is a little bit, complicated to be fit and have two kids and run a business. But as my psychologist often says, we have to figure out our values. For me personally, I like to say that what you spend your time on and your money on, that is really what you value. So now this year, as I opened up Theory of Mind podcast, is that this world has this beautiful thing. Every time you are trying to change, the world resists you. And you could say that the world resists you in direct correlation to the caliber of the change you wanted to make. So this year started off a little bit shaky. We had a death in the family since my grandfather died. That was kind of hard. Then my wife broke her tailbone. Then we had the biggest storm and state of emergency in Newfoundland for a week. But that's life. That's exactly how it is. But I try to keep up on my fitness. And I always say, I don't really have to train and stay active. I get to train and stay active. But here's the thing with fitness and family. If you run a business, if you have two young children, if you're in a new country where there's no support net, you have to make it possible for you to stay fit. And I read a fantastic book because I do read a lot of books. And the book that affected me in a big way is called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And I just made myself responsible for my own training and for my wife's training. And I have illustrated my life in such a way that I have a home gym. So I can definitely stop wasting time on driving back and forth. But is it hard? Yeah, it's very hard to stay in shape and having two kids, but you just use any opportunity that you can. And that means you try to make it happen. So sometimes, here's how it goes. People are very, very, occupied with rest days. They're very occupied with when should I rest, when am I overtraining, when do I have the time to train. If you really, really want to, you can usually train. But I advise any family guy like me to take your rest days on those days where you just can't fit it in. So on this video you see me and my family, we had to go to the store. I think we're out of diapers or something. And I thought, okay, I gotta spend time with my children, but I like to exercise. So what do? You take out the old good sled for the kids and the stroller, and you walk to the store. That's absolutely free exercise. Costs you nothing. When it comes to exercising and having children, you really just have to think, what kind of a parent, a person, a massage therapist, strength coach, what kind of a function do I have if I do not train? Does the training make me fitter? Yes, definitely. But it makes me a better dad to be around. I am hyperactive and I just have to get it in. When it comes to family and fitness, just use any opportunity you can to move. So we had this massive snowstorm. Excuse me. And since we had this massive snowstorm, I decided, okay, I can't go to work because I'm not allowed to legally. So I shoveled out and took my snowblower out for hours and hours and hours a day. And did I drink storm beer like all the other dads? Certainly, I drank a lot of storm beer. But the thing is, even though you're drinking storm beer, if you move enough, you can definitely neglect that. So I actually lost weight during the snowstorm. And you kind of have to do it this way, that we are all regulating stressors. And the stressors that we're regulating as athletes are definitely not the same stressors as we are regulating as dads, excuse me, I'm a little bit gunked up here, business owners, stressed young people, not enough money, not enough time. So you can look at it this way. You can train enough that you can definitely put your stressors in like a bucket. And we could call this the stress of life bucket. It's the stress from your training. It is the stress from your kids, mortgage, family, business, that's in the family. They're all stressors. But here's the thing. You can only pour about 5 liters into that bucket, if it's a 5-liter bucket. And there's a tiny hole which is called recovery. And recovery is mostly modulated by 2 things: rest and eating. So when you are training a lot, you have to rest more. And I even often give my clients this analogy. You see a wall, and for those who are handy sons of biatches like me, you could say that if you're doing a wall, put up a new drywall, sanding is the training, and plastering is the eating and sleeping. And if you do more training, more sanding than you do plastering, your wall actually gets thinner and weaker and doesn't function so well as a wall. But what can we do? Well, we can definitely try to up-regulate our ability to train, and that's by doing conditioning, trying to eat a healthy diet, and probably try to regulate our thoughts and minds. But here's the thing, I committed to this podcast, and now I am going into work in 10 minutes. This is kind of all the time I have. I will still make it work to train after work. Whatever time I have to train is the time I have to train. But there is an opportunity, a window today where I can train while supper is cooking tonight. I go downstairs into my man cave basement gym. I don't waste any time on anything else. Thank you. That's all for today, amigos. Keep us tuned.